Hi guys, Blender Beetle here. Welcome to my third tutorial. This one I thought I'd do a tutorial about customizing your interface because the way it starts is a little hard to work with workflow-wise, and being able to figure out where all the windows are and the GUI interface is really good. GUI interface, I believe, stands for General User Interface, but I could be wrong on that one. I googled it yesterday, but my memory is not the best. So here what I've done is I've stripped everything down. I've taken all my windows, I've deleted them, I've X'd them, and my ink and paint section has nothing. So what I'm going to do, you're going to go to Windows, and you have all these options here. For the ink and paint section, I'm going to set it up real quick, and then once I've finished setting up my ink and paint section, I'll go through the windows one by one and tell you what they all are and what they do. So, first thing we're going to want is we're going to want a combo viewer. This is basically your viewing panel. I've turned off all the GUI settings, but if you turn them back on, you can see your camera box here. You're going to want your table, your raster bounding box, camera BG, and ruler. So now you can see we have our interface back. And it works fine like this if you want to draw or anything, but we're just working with interface here. I also like to show the console. The consoles where you have all your play and stop functions. So it's good to have in your ink and paint section, especially if you're using it like me, which the ink and paint section doubles as your animation section. You can also, if you'd like, select the toolbar, which is going to be your tools, and select the toolbar options bar, which is up here. I don't like it doing that way, and I'll tell you why. It's because if you go to Windows, you have a toolbar here, and you can customize where you put this. Sorry, sometimes my monitor doesn't let me dock things right. Okay, you can customize where you put this, and I like to have my toolbar over here, and my tool options bar I like to have way up at the top. Above, notice you have this section here, and that's going to put it so that it stops here. I like to put it up one more. The reason being that makes sure that it always stays the length of my window, so I don't have to worry about, especially in eraser, not having the full length of this. If you put it down here, then if you then say take another window, we'll just randomly put the style editor in here for the sake of demonstrating. And if you scroll this way, notice it's impossible to edit the size of this eraser here. So that's why I like to put it up top. After you've got that all in there, next thing you're probably going to want is your X sheet, because you can't really animate without an X sheet. Go ahead and stick it next to your combo viewer. I like to put it over here, but you can put it anywhere you want. To dock, you just drag the window until you see a green. And once you see the green, just go ahead and let go, and it will dock it. You can work with your windows undocked, but I find it clunky and hard to navigate when I do it that way, so I just dock things. Next thing I'm going to want is I'm going to want my palette. This is where my colors are going to be. I'm going to scroll over here, and I'm going to add it there. And I tend to put the level strip underneath that because I work in the level strip often, so being able to come over here and see my drawings, edit my drawings in the level instead of having to go to the X sheet works really well. So what we have here is pretty much my general setup. This is what I always have it set at. Now, to go through windows and other things that exist, let's just go through them one by one. Let's start with the style editor. This is, oops, accidentally docked. This one is for editing colors. I don't know why OpenToonz calls it styles, but it's basically styles equals colors. You have your sliders here that can edit the transparency, the value, saturation, and hue. Not going to get too in depth with this. We'll do that in another tutorial. But this is going to be all your colors. And the next window is Palette Gizmo. This one's actually really cool. We're going to switch into Palette Edit for this one. In Palette Edit, you can change your color, right? That's a given. But if you go back to Ink and Paint, the color there, maybe you want a purple and you've already got a red. You can change the color of your fade to color, and you can fade. Oops, I faded all the way. And it will adjust this color accordingly to what you have here. You can also change the hue, the saturation, the value, the matte, which basically means how transparent your color is. And so this is a really good tool if you've got a color that's really close to what you want, but you just want to tweak it a little bit. Next one is the palette. We've already seen that. It's just basically your colors. You've got save buttons and a key button, which I haven't been able to figure out why you would have a palette key, but I have a feeling it means you can change colors halfway through. I haven't explored that enough yet to talk about it. Next is Studio Palette. This is very handy if you're doing a large project where each one has a different palette. You will have a palette down here that you can add colors into. So here I'm going to come over here and get color from Studio Palette, or, sorry, oh, almost forgot, it opens it in a new page. So now we have this color here. I don't have to worry about getting a new color or refining the colors every time I make a new palette. I can just drag it from the Studio Palette, and that's really good for large projects where you have a lot of different levels and lots of confusing jumbled mess. Next window we've got is the combo viewer. We've already seen that. Generally, it opens up looking like this. You've got practically all of your GUI settings turned on, except for the field guide area, which turns on the grid there, and the safe area, which, although you can't see it now, it's this, there it is, it's this red line here, which is the title safe and the action safe, which is not something I will go into here, so we're going to just turn those off. Next window we've got the X sheet. You probably know what this is if you've spent any time in the program. It's basically the equivalent of your timeline. It's styled after how animators on paper would use an X sheet, which is up and down. You got your frames over here telling you which one, and then you have columns. You have pretty much, as far as I can tell, an unlimited amount of columns and an unlimited amount of frames. See, I'm just scrolling and scrolling. Well, if that confuses you, just remember, column is a layer, frame is, well, a frame. You can add notes here. I want to say note, post-it. This note can be moved, so it's not attached to a certain frame, just remember that. but it will post the note on the current frame you're on. I'm going to go ahead and just delete that memo, and that's it for the X Sheet tab. Color model. I haven't played with this one yet, but I believe what it is if you go to this, hold on for just 1 second while I find my desktop, which has tutorials, which has new folder, which has images. Okay, I'm going to load that. Yeah, see, this is a color picker, so you can, oh wow. Apparently I have 47 just different shades of white or gray in this picture. That is impressive. So this is probably just, not probably, this is, you can drag in a picture, a character model, and pick the color right off of there so that you don't have to keep checking and making sure that the colors are right. You can just go ahead and go to your screen and click the color. That would be very beneficial to have in this frame. I'm not sure why they don't have it in this frame. I will be adding that later. Next thing we're going to look at, I'm going to Control-Z until I have my palette back. We just did color model, file browser. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a file browser. You've got your files over here. You can go up. You can make a new folder. Name. You can change from icon to list mode, so that depends on what you'd prefer. Export file list. I'm not sure what that does, so that's not something I've worked with, but this file browser is going to be right here in your browser tab, so that you can load files, you can go to your computer, find an image that you're looking for, etc., etc. Very handy tool. Next window, level strip, as we see over here. This is your level strip, which, if you don't know what a level is, then you're probably not drawing yet. It's basically a set of drawings that your X sheet is referring back to. This, you can scroll up and down in your drawings. It's where you're going to edit your drawings, unless you're editing them over here, which does edit it in here. It's also where you're going to have your onion skin controls. And you can, if you don't know how to work the onion skin, you can go look at my last tutorial, which was about onion skinning. Next window, we have the toolbar. As we've seen, this is going to have all your tools in it. There's a little double arrow here, which has whatever tools are currently not showing. And then, apparently, when it's undocked, you can only see like that much. Oh, there it is. When you open it up, you've got way more options than you had before. This is going to be all your vector options. You've got more tools over here. Just keep that in mind. And then next window is the tool option bar. Keep in mind when docking, this is a problem that I had and didn't figure out for probably a good 2 hours. This little gray square is the only thing you can click and drag. If you try and click and drag over here, nothing happens. So any window, you're going to have this little gray square. You've got it here, here. If you don't have the gray square, or if you don't click on the gray square, you can't move it. So your options bar is going to change based on what tool you're using. Nice and easy to navigate. Other windows, just remember this is here, batch servers. I have no idea what this is. Somebody said it was something about rendering. and doing things while you render, but honestly I can't say anything about this one. Maybe later I'll explore it more and then bring you guys a new tutorial, but batch servers is a option if you happen to know what that is. Flipbook, this is basically, a flipbook is basically a preview. Open it up. I'm currently not seeing. It's possible, actually, it seems like a flipbook. Well, I thought it was a preview, it's not. So disregard what I just said. A flipbook allows you to play through an animation sequence through this. I've loaded one of my levels in here, and now there's no timing or anything. It's just literally 1 frame a second. So that's really interesting. And notice it didn't affect anything over here. So it's kind of like a preview for your level strips. Function editor, can't say much about this. This has to do with animating. It's got all of your details of where it rotates when. It's like an X sheet for your individual rotation. This is going to be very important for anyone who animates via rigging and moving things, because this is where all of your information is going to be. I don't use this option because I'm drawing, so if you're looking for a tutorial on that, you will probably have to go to another YouTube. Next window, Scene-Cast. Scene-Cast is basically your folder for your current animations. So your current, whatever you've loaded, your Scene-Cast, you've got audio and cast, and as you see over here, you've got levels, and it'll tell you how many frames are in the level, which level it is. Like, see, I've got loaded, and if it's red, I believe that means that it's not being used. So if I click here, it's there, but it's not being used. I'm going to try going Shift A, and notice even though I added it and pressed enter, nothing's there because I don't have an A in my cast. But I had a B in my cast even though it doesn't have any drawings. There's also the audio section. If you have audio, this is where it's going to be. It's basically like a library. If you use Adobe products, this is going to be your version of your Adobe library of files, file folder, or whatever. Next one, schematic. This one has to do with effects and what column is tied to what. This is especially important when you start working with meshes and stuff like that. If you switch over to your FX schematic, because you have your stage schematic, which is what's tied to what. If you're not tied, I believe you can't see it. All this lovely jazz. And apparently you can tie it to the camera instead of the table, and I think that has to do with how things move. Like if you tie it to the camera, the drawing will move when you adjust the camera, but if you tie it to the table, it'll move when you adjust the table, and etc., etc. This is the effects schematic. You can add effects like a blur. You have all these lovely options. If you don't have these options, go look up in the user forum, adding plugins, I believe, because all these options, some of them come extra in a little packet that you can add to your folder, and there should be information on that. So this is actually really important. The first time I had it, I was trying to make things show up, but I found out that my column 2 or my column 1 which was my background, wasn't tied to the X sheet or the output, so my column 2 wasn't showing up in my render. So that's where these come in handy. Again, I haven't really looked into this one too much. It would have to be more exploration and a tutorial if I was going to explain that. Finally, nope, not finally, got 3 more. Your tasks. This one, I believe, also has to do with rendering and doing things while you're doing other stuff. It's, if you go to batches, the tasks menu is over here, and it's all stuff that I honestly have not played with and have no idea what to do. But the option is there for those of you who do know what that is. Your history, so if you're like me and you love having this history thing telling you exactly what you've done and how you can fix it, you can go all the way back to the beginning, you can go halfway through, you don't have to, oh. My program is about to crash on me, I apologize. Let's open it back up. And notice when I opened it back up, all of my stuff's still here. It does save the interface from what I can tell, but my history panel is empty. So let's do something real quick. So we have history, raster brush tool shows up. Let's get the eraser. Erasing shows up, and if you go back there, that's the N22. If you go back here, you redo. It's just so you don't have to keep pressing Control-Z, Control-Y all the time. It's a nice thing to have. I don't keep it open because I would use it all the time and accidentally undo things that I wanted to do, and it would be super confusing. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over and we're going to look at this last one, which is the message center. This one is basically if you want to keep track of the program and what's going on, any errors, warnings, or infos. Like if I try, I'm on a raster one right now. If I try to take this darling and do this, it's going to tell me the current tool cannot be used on a raster level. If you X this and do it, it comes up as a warning, but if you have your warning tab open, you don't get that extra window. I believe that's all the windows we have. It doesn't change really, except that if you go to another one, they have adjusted it so that different one shows up in your commonly used. Like, it's not what you're commonly using, it's what's commonly used in this section. So if you go to browser, you don't have a Windows tab. If you go to batches, your Windows tab is going to show you the file browser, batch servers, or your batch servers and tasks, but it doesn't have anything else on there. If you go to X sheet, way more options, but your schematic is all the way up here at the top, whereas in Ink and Paint, your style editor is at the top. So it's basically been adjusted for different workflows based on what tab you're in. Your GUI interface, super easy to find. That's about it. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about interfaces and windows, ask them below and I'll see if I can answer them. If you have a request for a new tutorial, let me know and I will see what I can do. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment and subscribe.